Hello, my name is William Jones, and I will be giving my informative speech on Tchaikovsky and how the great composer took to a significant story and transformed it into a representation of his personal troubles. Tchaikovsky was a very prominent Russian composer in the mid to late 1800s. He was most famous for something we're very familiar with, which is the Nutcracker. He was part of the five very prominent composers in Russia at the time, and they were all very nationalistic. Tchaikovsky's relationships were all pretty broken. His first marriage was to a woman named Antonia Milyukova. She was, as he described, a woman of whom I am not the least in love. He was married to diffuse any suspicion of his sexuality and to appease his family. His personal life was often viewed as unsuccessful. After his divorce with Antonia, he then began a relationship with a woman named Nadezhda von Meck. She was a woman whom Tchaikovsky shared a relationship with, but was never pressured to meet her face to face. Rather, they communicated through letters for many years. It is unclear as to why she never wanted to meet, though she did send him a significant amount of money for his work because she was very fond of it. During this relationship is when Tchaikovsky became increasingly troubled and took to alcohol as a relief. In 1880, the letters and funds from Meck stopped, which worsened Tchaikovsky's suffering. In 1881, he fled to the United States, which was where he began to create and discover what would become his most successful operatic work, known as Eugene Onegin. Often people describe Eugene Onegin as a story of unattainable love. Throughout the libretto, which is a condensed version of what the opera is going to be sung about, the theme of unattainable love is grotesquely present. The story surrounds Tatiana, her sister Olga, Olga's boyfriend Lenski, and Lenski's best friend Onegin. When the opera begins, Olga and Tatiana are singing, and they sing of a bird who does not know whether she wants to be in the sky or in the tree, which sort of begins the motif of uncertainty and what fate has in store for a person. The sentiment in the story is much different than the original version, which is a novel by Alexander Pushkin. Pushkin's works were often referred to as dry, ironic, and even cruel. Tchaikovsky himself stated, "I composed this opera because I was moved to express in music all that seems to cry out for such expression in Eugene Onegin. I should like to call it lyrical scenes or something of that kind." The longing manner in which Tchaikovsky composed this opera is very present in the first duet I just spoke about. I will give a little example here.
It's final exams week, and that means two things. The library is packed, and I'll be right.
As I said before, this specific song is referring to a bird who does not know whether it longs to be in the sky or in the trees, whether to be safe or to be at flight. This example is explicitly descriptive of Tchaikovsky's own impression of his compositions, as he says, almost entirely emotional and sentimental. This was a deliberately ironic transposition of the opera from its original form as a novel by Pushkin. In the opera, Tatiana and her emotions are very central, seconded by that only of Lenski, her sister's boyfriend. Fate would not allow Lenski to be with Olga because of Olga's own issues and Lenski's overwhelming passion. Similar to Lenski and Olga, fate would also not allow Tatiana and Onegin be together. When Tatiana first sees Onegin, she knows from that instant that that is the man that she needs to be with, that she is most in love with. But in the final scene of the opera, After everything happened and it was evident that they would no longer be together and that Onegin had no interest in being with Tatiana, the central character, it becomes hopeful that Tchaikovsky will give the lovers the life together that they have earned, but it is not so. Rather, Tchaikovsky places the two lovers, Tatiana and Onegin, years after Tatiana confesses her love first. He puts them in a situation where they both can speak freely of their love for one another, even though many years have passed. Instead of giving them the life that would have meant happiness and love, Tatiana is made to uphold her vows as a married woman, leaving Onegin heartbroken and without purpose to live. When Onegin and Tatiana were finally in each other's arms, it was as if the world simply would not allow them to be together. And as I have discussed before, this mirrors exactly the way in which Tchaikovsky was not able to love the one or ones he felt he was destined to love because of the society in which and the country in which that he grew up in.